Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for stopping by for another installment of Tech Support Thursday. I'm actually really excited about this one because there's a lot of really good questions that were asked in this last week. So, yeah. So, just a quick update on a couple things. I have begun releasing the NSX V series, and one of the things that I received a little bit of feedback already on is the that NSX-V is eventually going to be end of support, and yeah, I already knew that. But the point of the series for NSX-V was not to say, hey, there's this new technology out there called NSX for vSphere. I'm actually actively studying and working with NSX-V and NSX-T on a regular basis in my new day job. So I'm spending a lot of time in it. I'm also learning how to migrate from V to T, and I'm also actively working towards my VCAP deploy, which currently is on 6.2. So there's a lot of reasons why I'm still working inside of V. So just be aware of those things. So, um, excuse me. I'm going to go a week back, and we're going to work our way through a bunch of questions and a bunch of comments, and we're going to answer them. So, tech support Thursday, ticket 12. Hi Rob, any pros and cons about AliExpress computers? You can purchase a motherboard with two CPUs and some RAM for $200. Can it be a good replacement alternative for UCS? I did reply to this one, and the answer is I honestly have no idea. I didn't even know you could buy a computer off AliExpress. I don't ever shop there. I know nothing about the site other than the fact that it's out there, and I've heard some people talk about it. But beyond that, I have no knowledge about anything about AliExpress. So buyer beware. The next one up is Data Center 9000V VX917. A friend of mine from a long time ago commented, "Hi Rob, good class. Uh, Good to see you around, man. Appreciate you." And then there's another comment on Cisco ASA Basics 2, enabling AutoNAT or ObjectNAT on a Cisco ASA. Thanks a lot, Mr. Riker. You are welcome. Cisco IO6R Basics 1, the initial configuration steps. Great video. Can you do a video on migrating from IO6R 5.3.4, very specific version, to 7.1 with configurations? I didn't respond to this one, and the basic answer to it is no, because as far as I'm aware of, iOS 6R, the virtual machines that I'm running on, iOS 6R V or XRV, stopped they stopped development at 6.1 and change. So I could take 5.3 and upgrade it, but I've never done that. 7.1 is only available on 9000V, the XR 9000. So I honestly have no idea. I mean, there's some documentation. So as far as I know, it would. So the simple answer to this question would be, go look at the upgrade guide for that particular version and see if you need to upgrade to maybe you have to do a phase migration or upgrade, or you might have to upgrade to 6.0 and then from 6.0 to 7.0 and then from 7.0 to 7.1. I don't know. Maybe they will let you do a clean upgrade from 5.3 to 7.1. I doubt it, but you never know. Um, so yeah, I'm not going to be able to demo that because don't have the ability to do so. On X9000V VXN17, external connectivity to private WAN. What software is being used in this video? Maybe a list in the description would benefit everyone. EVNG. I say it repeatedly. If you're not familiar with it, do a little bit of research on that. It's not terribly difficult to understand. Eve is a very popular software simulation capability out there on the market. I have been using it exclusively. Now I've made an obvious shift from Cisco to VMware over the past several months, so a lot of my training has been VMware focused. So that's where it'll stay. SD-WAN 4 onboarding at vEdges to the controllers. Hey Rob, thanks for your efforts. Finally, I bought workstation desktop, Dell Precision 7810, 128 gig RAM, and 48 CPU threads, and I'm using your videos for my SD-WAN course. I found the images of SD-WAN components, but I did not find the L3 VOA, the iOS V switch and router that you are using, please help me find it. Or if there is no problem, you can send it to my email, and I would be grateful. So number one, I don't share images with anyone, never have. Number two, you can go buy access from Cisco Modeling Labs. Just go Google it. It's CML Personal, and pull it up. Pay the $200, and then download access. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Let's see here. SD-WAN 2, overview of how SD-WAN operates. Can I download the same topology you are working on? Thanks. Yes, you can. All you have to do is become a member. Click the membership, and once the membership has been clicked, then you'll gain access to the share file. Building labs inside of EveNG. Is EveNG is free tool? Yes, EveNG is a free tool. You can pay for the pro version, which will give you access to more features, but you don't have to buy the pro version if you don't want to. Although the folks over at EveNG would probably much appreciate the business, because it does take a lot of time and effort to do a lot of the development work. So I'm sure they'd be grateful for any type of monetary bumps that you would be willing to offer them. At CCNA Bootcamp Session 1, where can I get the PKT file lab or this exclusive for members? So that's something that I have to go and update. I have to go in and I have to upload the files to the stuff that I use in the bootcamp file or bootcamp. I have to upload to the Google Drive. So let's see, one second here. No, nothing specific. Okay. How a $1,000 investment can help you earn $100,000 or more. Hi, I bought the server you recommended. Quick question on it. Is it normal for the fan to be going full throttle and fan amber light blinking nonstop? When I tried to install ESXi on it, the 4 hard drives are not detected during the installation process. Do I need to create the RAID for it? Yes, you do. You need to create a virtual drive. You have to go into the RAID controller. I don't know what you bought. You'd have to go into the RAID controller. When the server boots up, if it's a UCS box, you just wait for it to bypass the initial BIOS splash screen. I would recommend that once you go into that, you'll press, I forget, there's a web BIOS thing you go into, and you're able to create the virtual drives from there. I would recommend grab all 4 drives. You'll have one big drive to map to, and then you'll be able to go through and when ESXi is going through the install process, the virtual drive will show up. If you don't have a virtual drive created, ESXi won't have anything to point to in order for the install to happen. So that's what you'll need to do. I don't know the fan amber light. As far as I know, if you have an amber light blinking, that means with one power supply, I believe that means that you are on AC power and not DC power, or you're on 110 and not 220. I believe is how that comes into play. It's been a while since I've looked into it. So keep those things in mind. If you're not sure what the blinking light means, go Google that specific thing for your model, and it'll pull up. There'll be some documentation. This should be obvious to a lot of folks that if you're buying a server, go Google the server specs and go look at the installation guides. A lot of these vendors will put out information around that. How to set up Cisco SD-WAN at EveNG. Are there any problems if I work immediately on VMware Workstation to enable EveNG? No, it doesn't matter. As long as you have the ability to running virtualization on your box, you'll be good to go, and you'll be able to run EveNG and VMware Workstation without a problem. Obviously, it might be easier for somebody like yourself to work inside of Eve on ESXi, but if you don't have the ability of running ESXi, then VMware Workstation is a good alternative. SD-WAN 2, overview of how SD-WAN operates. How to get the configuration, please. Again, it's one of those things where you have to go through and you'll have to click the membership, and once you click the membership, you'll have access to all of that. And the SD-WAN stuff was already up there. Security, configuring ASA VLAN interfaces. So this is a ways back. I followed the steps in the video and everything worked. Did not have any of the issues you were having with Telnet to 3389. Great videos. Oh, well, thank you. And this is a membership person. So, yes, thank you for that. So, somehow, for some reason, I remember having a problem in that particular video where I was trying to Telnet to a port that should have been opened, and the firewall, it was giving me some issues with that. Alright, on 9000V VXLAN 13 service leaf setup in single ASAV HA setup part 1. Hi Rob, thanks a lot for this content. It is a wonderful job. I followed exactly what you were doing in my home lab, and I reached to point when I add the default route on 5K toward firewall. By the way, these are 9Ks, not 5Ks. 10.1.10.1, which IP route, default route. But when I have been checked the routing table on this 5K node, it appears like default route, unicast, multicast, best. It's a lot of specific output that if you're reading the comments, you'll know what I'm talking about. Any explain from your side regarding this? Well, did you make sure to put the default route under the VRF? That's the first thing. That's one thing you have to go do is you'll have to get it's VRFed off. There's a VRF for that particular customer. So you didn't say that you went underneath the VRF. So you'll have to go underneath the VRF inside of the 9K. And once you're underneath the VRF in the 9K, then you'll be able to go underneath the address family of IPv4, and then you'll be able to go and configure the default route. And that's how it'll get propagated to the other devices via BGP. It'll show up. It should show up that way. But beyond that, that should be all you need to worry about in that particular case. Sounds to me like you're putting it in the global routing table and not the VRF table, which is why you're having the problem that you're having. So it's yeah, without tunnel ID and BX. Okay, yep. So the way that you're breaking it down tells me that you're putting in the global routing table based off your output. It seems like it in the global routing table, the default VRF, and not in the customer specific VRF. So make sure you put it in the right VRF. All right, so let's see here. Quite a few comments on the NSX V1 series introduction. It took a long time to record that content, and I was actually really happy with the outcome. So it's a lot of the discussions that I wanted to cover. So it's definitely a deep dive for what I'm was looking to dive into. Let's see here. Let's expand some of the stuff out here. Let's see here. So, the first one is, hi Rob, can't wait to see more videos about NSX. I have a Lenovo P17 laptop. Can you please briefly explain what is the best way to implement this lab? It has 10th generation, an i9-10885 processor with vPro processor, 8-core 16 threads, 2.4 gigahertz, 5.3 gigahertz turbo boost. Wow, you are literally dumping your entire basic. Okay, 16 meg. Okay. Do you think it will support this lab? Your CPU probably won't have a problem. You've only got a single CPU, so you're limited to 8 cores. I'm running on a dual core or dual CPU, 8 cores on each, 16, which is actually the hyperthreads of 32. So, and 64 gigs of RAM. I ran on 128 gigs of RAM, and I was pushing 90 something gigs by the time I was done. But that's because I was running a lot of VMs and testing things out and stuff like that. You might be able, so you're gonna have to deploy NSX Manager. You're gonna have to deploy vCenter Server. You're gonna have to deploy a minimum of 4 hosts 3 to do if you especially if you're gonna do vSAN, it'd be 3, but nothing mentioned vSAN here. But uh, it'll support it, but I don't know how far you'll be able to take it. That's the thing. 64 gigs of RAM is going to be your limiting factor because of you're going to have to run. You figure vCenter is going to take 10, NSX Manager is going to take 16. So there's, and then I deploy a domain controller so I can do DNS. So that's going to take another 8 on average. So right there is half your RAM in just 3 devices. So vCenter, NSX Manager, and a domain controller, that's half your RAM. Now, if you want to deploy a couple of ESXi hosts with 8 gigs each, and then run some really lightweight VMs, some Linux, Ubuntu VMs inside of that, I mean, it's doable. 64 is going to be a stretch for you, but it can be pulled off. Another comment on that was nice and informative. Please keep doing it. Another comment was, do you think it makes Do you think it makes more sense focusing on Cisco technologies like CCNP Encore and RC before jumping into network virtualization, or does it make to learn both at the same time because they are complementary skills? And this one got an upvote. So I would say, if you don't already have a background in networking, if you have just a CCNA in networking, and if you don't have a lot of time in networking, let's say you're a couple years in, you got a CCNA, you're going to struggle for sure. Understanding overlays, underlays, that type of stuff. Those are going to be the things that are going to be the biggest pain point for you. I would say that if you have a CCNP level of knowledge and you understand GRE and IPsec and IPsec over GRE and DMVPN and MPLS, under the big thing that catches a lot of people is the overlay thing. If you understand overlays, you should be okay, because then you got to remember VXLAN, and VXLAN might be a new topic for some people. NSXT uses Geneve, which is basically a VXLAN derivative. It's another variation of the same protocol, but it's different because it's got a different header format. It's a little bit bigger in terms of what it can support, not in terms of VNIs, but I'd say both would be good to know, because if you're the thing that you got to remember is having a CCNP based understanding. And being strong in all the technologies that are on the CCNP blueprint for Encore and RC is going to give you a really good base, right? And you can kind of pirouette from there. You don't need to go CCIE if you don't want to. But I'd say the big thing that you need to remember is don't put them into their own individual silos. So, for example, don't put CCNP and NSX into their own silos. Yes, they are two different technologies, one Cisco, one VMware. But what you need to remember is they're both networking solutions. One is more hardware focused, one is more software focused. Now, where they will cross over in both NSXV and in NSXT, as they both connect to the outside world. There is a physical to virtual cutoff. In the NSXV world, it's the Edge Services Gateway. In the NSXT world, it's your Edge VM, running on your Edge cluster. So these are things that you're going to want to take into consideration when you're playing around with it. Make sure that you understand the correlation with NSXV and 6.4.9, which is the version you're going to see me demoing. You're going to see a lot of integration, right? I'm going to be connecting to my physical environment, and I'm going to be able to reach out to the internet. So I'm able to bring the internet into both the V and the T environments once I demo the T environment more thoroughly. But yes, you're gonna need to be good on the Cisco side, so that when it comes to integrating the VMware side, you're covered. If you don't have a strong Cisco side and you're maybe just skating by with the NSX side, you're gonna struggle, because there is going to be an integration piece, and you need to be able to understand how that comes into play, and then be able to take that to the next level. So keep those things in mind when you're playing around with it. Hi, Rob. Thank you for starting great series again. Thank you very much. Can you please explain setup by setup how you build the NSXT? If it's possible, come with PowerPoint for basics like what is vStand? Oh, standards and V. Okay, so vSphere standard and vSphere distributed switches. TEPS, DRS, distributed firewall, Geneve. Like more, this may help us to understand easily. I am planning on covering that stuff as we go along. NSXT is not. I'm not. I started recording it. I recorded the building the data centers portion of it, and I stopped because as I was reading through the documentation, I was like, oh, there's a lot that I haven't covered. So I paused my forward progress on NSXT's series. Once I go through it again, I'll go through it a second time, and I'll be probably much better off around that time. But yes, I'm not going to do PowerPoints. That just takes a lot of time and effort, but I will walk you guys through how it all works. All right, SD-WAN 4, onboarding vEdges to the controllers. How can I get the Viptela file to upload on vManage to for vEdge registration? I don't use a Viptela file. I manually add them by going through the process that you see me walk through. I do a certificate-based install, and I manually add the vEdges as I'm going along because you don't need the Viptela file to do that. At least in the version of 18.4, which is what I tested out. And for all of you folks out there that are studying for your CCIE for enterprise infrastructure, that is the version you'll be tested on. So you're welcome for that. Somebody brought that up to me on Twitter the other day that the version of SD-WAN that I demoed last year is the same version that the CCIE lab is testing on. So you're welcome. I've covered a lot of the things you're going to be seeing in the CCIE lab. Last comment here is NSX1. I do not see in the description below about the servers. I will add some notes about the servers in the description, but any server with 128 gigs of RAM and two 8-core CPUs should be sufficient. I mean, kind of insert whatever Dell, HP, Nutanix, whatever you want to run. It's up to you. But that is pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. I tried to keep this one kind of short. I'm hoping this was informative for you guys. Please let me know. You can absolutely put comments in the comment section below if you'd like to do so. Ask me questions. I will continue to do this. So next week I am out of town for work. So I don't know if I'll actually be able to do a tech support Thursday. If I can, I will. I will attempt to record one, but I might have to skip next week or do a 2-week on the following Thursday. But I don't know. I'm still haven't figured that piece out yet. But other than that, I want to thank everybody for stopping by and hanging out with me in this video. You guys are awesome. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share this with all your friends. And I will see all of you in the next video.